I decided to make a few changes to my will. I want to give everything to my grandkids. My son and his wife, they don't really need it. They have the house paid off, they have everything going for them with really good paying jobs, and I just want to set my grandkids up, well, for a good education and maybe a down payment on their house. So, when I tell my son, I expect him to be happy because his wife was happy, but it turns out he wanted the money for himself. So now I'm stuck in a pickle. And my grandson finds out about this whole fiasco, and, well, this is what my son decides to do, 'cause he's such a genius. My son is angry with me because I decided to leave my worldly possessions to my grandkids instead of him. For some backstory, my late wife and I had one son together, Caleb. Admittedly, I had him a little later in life than I would have liked, but I'm proud of the boy that I've raised. At least I was until recently. My son is middle-aged now and has a lovely wife, Valerie, and 3 kids, Josh, James, and the twins. They're adults now in university, and Rose, the youngest, is a sophomore in high school. They're all good kids, doing well for themselves. I could not be more proud. Caleb works in finance, and his wife is a trusted lawyer, so they make good money. I'm retired and live alone, but I'm very active, even in my old age. My grandkids came to visit me every weekend, and I love having them around. Sometimes they bring their friends by just to swim in the swimming pool out back, and I love having the house full of children. Val says I spoil them rotten. She's right. I can't deny them anything. I go by their house once per month for dinner, and I'm getting up there in age, and I realized I have not updated my will in a long time. So, I contacted my lawyer and set up a meeting where I wrote and signed an updated will. I wanted to leave all of my worldly belongings to my grandkids, so they could have a good start in life once they were done with school, or at least have something to fall back on if they get into a rough spot. My wife and I were heavily into real estate back in the day when it was cheaper, and have a number of properties all over the state. Some of them went to my son when my wife passed. I divided them equally amongst my grandkids, and any liquid cash and investments would also go to them, along with my life insurance. Everything else would go to charity. Caleb and Val have their own money and investments, so they didn't need mine. Plus, Val's side of their family is very supportive, and they can lean on them for anything. I felt really good after my meeting. If anything were to happen to me, at least I could rest easy knowing that my family would be okay. I was going to have dinner with them that following Sunday and plan to tell them there. It's an hour drive to my son's house, so I usually take an Uber since it's hard for me to drive at night, and I always bring something for my grandkids. Their favorite snack, or a gift card for something they like or want. When I go to the house dinner, it was almost ready. So we all sit down at the table and we get into our usual conversation, where I asked the kids how things were going with school. While we were having our dinner, I made the announcement and the kids and Val were absolutely ecstatic. There's a caveat for them to collect money through. They have to finish school, at least a bachelor degree, and hold down one full-time job for at least a year. The money's meant to give them a leg up in life, not a free ride. It was all they talked about for the rest of dinner. I was happy that, well, they were happy. But I noticed my son had gone very eerily quiet since I made the announcement. Even when the kids would talk to him, he would just grunt or nod. After dinner, he asked me to meet with him in the den for some drinks, and I asked him, well, what's on your mind? And he asked me if I really wanted to leave all that money to the children, and I said yes. Well, he said, what about me? I stayed silent for a bit because, well, I was sincerely confused. Like, what do you mean? What about me? I told him he had everything a man could want. A great wife, good kids, a home that's paid for, and a well-paying job. There's nothing else I have to give him but my blessings. I also reminded him of his inheritance from his mother. He has more than enough to live comfortably for literally the rest of his life. My concern is making sure my grandchildren are set, and It's not like I plan to drop dead tomorrow. I'd take good care of myself because I'd, at the very least, like to see the twins graduate university and Rose graduate from high school. Caleb tried to argue that the kids would not know what to do with this type of money. They are already spoiled rotten and would probably just spend it irresponsibly. My grandkids are spoiled, in the sense that they don't have to want for anything, but they're not bad kids. And I put those rules in place to finish school and have a job, so at least they'd know some responsibility before they can even get it. I don't know. He seemed so annoyed with me, and I did not understand where all this was coming from. I thought he would be over the moon. For the kids, his wife was, and I asked him if something was wrong, and he simply said no. He asked me if I'd consider leaving the money to him and he'd make sure the kids did not spend it frivolously. I wasn't going to agree with that. My mind was made up, but I told him I'd give it some thought just to get him off my back, and the conversation was giving me a bad vibe, and I just wanted to be done with it. I went home not long after that, but that talk with Caleb left a bitter taste in my mouth for a good long while. I put it behind me and went on with life, though, and things were going well for a while. Then one weekend when the grandkids were over, my son showed up out of the blue. It surprised me because he rarely comes by, and maybe on a special occasion like my birthday or Christmas, the kids drove themselves over. They were out back playing in the pool, and I was tending to the garden. My late wife was serious about her garden, so I've taken good care of it in her absence. Anyways, my son pulls up and asks me if I have a minute to talk. Mind you, this is 3 weeks after I made the announcement about my inheritance, and I was still on edge about our previous conversation. Caleb asked me if I had a minute to talk, and I said sure, and went to sit on the porch. But he did not want to sit on the porch with me and asked if we could just talk in my office. I guess he did not want the kids to overhear. So, we went to the office, and the moment I sat down, I hit record on my old school tape recorder I keep in the drawer, because I knew this conversation was about to go bad, and I needed to record it. My son asked me if I'd thought about what we talked about or contacted my lawyer to make the amendments that he suggested. I was honest and said no. It had not even slipped my mind since then, and I probably was never going to change my mind. Needless to say, he didn't like that. He accused me of spoiling his kids and giving them the easy way out in life, telling me that they would just get rid of the money because they're irresponsible and worldly. They could not even take care of the dog that he's gotten for them, and his wife has to be the one to clean up after it. He went down the list and said Josh is hard-headed and had to be threatened into doing his chores. He said James would be interested in a new after-school activity every week, and I quote you this: "I'd be surprised if that one finishes college. He's so wishy-washy." Rose is too into TikTok and has her head in the clouds, and he doubted that she'd get a full ride to university like her brothers. I told him, stop slandering my grandkids. I know they're good kids because when they're home here at my house, they clean up after themselves. They help me meal prep, take good care of the chores, and fix any issues I have with my computer or laptop. Well, I almost never have to lift a finger when they're around, and the only thing they let me do is take care of the garden, because they know how much it means to me. And even them. Rose will help me weed sometimes. I asked him if he thought I gave him the easy way out too, and he never had to want for anything and got a sizable inheritance from his mother. He said, oh, well, that's not the same. That he grew up in a different time without all this technology and fear of missing out. The conversation was getting absolutely ridiculous. I was beginning to wonder if my son even liked his kids, much less loved them, and I would never speak about him like that when he was younger, even when he made mistakes. I told him it was my money, and who I chose to leave it to was my business, and my decision still stood. My worldly possessions would be going to my grandkids, regardless of how rotten he thought they were. He accused me of loving my grandkids more than I love him, which I found so childish. Then he said that he'd bar the kids from coming back over here and tell them I did not want them around, effectively trying to ruin the relationship I have with him if I did not put his name on the will. Well, that was the last straw for me. I told him to get the hell out of my house. The entire conversation left me so drained, and I did not feel like going back out into the garden at all for the rest of the day. Even my grandkids noticed a change in my mood. And, well, I told them I was just a little bit tired, but in reality, I wasn't tired. I was mad. So mad. I don't know when my son got to be so selfish and greedy. Things were fine for the weeks that followed, though. The next time I went to dinner at my son's house, though, things were very tense. Val noticed and asked me if something was wrong, and I guess Caleb had not told her his true thoughts on my will, and if he did not tell her, I would be the one to tell her soon. So I just told her I was tired from my hike, which also gave me an excuse to leave earlier than I usually do. The very next day, I get a call from my lawyer. He said Caleb had contacted him and said he believed I was not in my right mind anymore and was being irresponsible with my finances. My lawyer told him we'd spoken recently and he saw no signs of mental decline, but Caleb kept pressing him, saying, oh no, he was sure I was becoming senile and that he should be put in charge of my finances. My lawyer explained to him that unless I got evaluated by a doctor and they deemed me of unsound mind, then I was free to do as I pleased with my finances. Caleb apparently did not like that and called my lawyer a hack. I apologized, and I really don't know what's gotten into him as of lately. But I was worried. I contemplated contacting his wife to see if they were having any financial issues. It's the only reason I could see him fighting this hard. That weekend, when my grandkids came by, I decided to ask one of them. So I called Josh into my office to ask him how things were at home, or if he noticed his father acting strange as of lately, and he said no, and asked me why. I decided to play him the recording I made of his dad. As we sat and listened, I could see the disgust on his face, especially when Caleb threatened to ruin our relationship. I explained the entire situation to him as clear as I could. Told him about his dad's reaction to the initial announcement and talk that he had with my lawyer. Josh sat there quietly and listened. Then he said he remembered hearing his father talking to somebody on the phone about loans a few months back, and he had not thought anything about it at the time, but now he thinks his dad may be in some sort of debt. He also said his dad was getting a bit more frugal as of lately. Like, he'd yell at them when food went bad and had to be thrown out, and when they asked him what they'd be doing for their annual summer vacation since they always take a trip during the summer, he'd tell them he was still thinking about it, which is weird, because they usually already have bought the tickets months in advance, and it was near the end of spring. I thanked him for his insight and apologized for making him listen to his dad's nasty words, and he shrugged and said he was glad I told him. I honestly don't know where to go from here. I've thought about contacting my son's wife to see if she could talk some sense into him, but I don't want to cause any confrontation or contention in their marriage. I think I'll sleep on it for a few days. Update number 1. Well, I said I did not want to cause any contention in my son's marriage, and I did not, but I did seem to have caused a rift between him and his kids. Perhaps playing the recording for Josh may not have been the best of an idea, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. A few nights ago, I was getting ready for bed, and I heard my doorbell go off. I look at the security camera and see Josh standing on my porch with a book bag and a duffel bag, so I let him in and asked him what's going on. He said he had a fight with his father since the day I played the recording and told him what his dad had been saying to them. He has not been able to look at his father the same. They were having dinner that night, and Rose brought up their summer vacation, and Caleb told her if she wants a fancy vacation so bad, she can do it with her granddad's money. Josh said he blew up on Caleb after he said some things he regretted and would not rather repeat it. He said his dad yelled back at him, calling him an ungrateful brat, and said since he liked his grandpa more than him, then he should go live with him. His mom tried to defuse the situation, but tensions were high, and Josh ended up telling everyone all the awful things that Caleb said. Then he packed his bags and took a taxi over here. He said things were still tense when he left, and his mother had gone upstairs to talk to his dad, and there was a lot of shouting. He said he tried to call me before he came, but I'd left my phone on the charger down in the kitchen, so I had not heard it. Before I did anything else, I set Josh up in my spare room and welcomed him to do anything in the kitchen. I told him not to worry about his dad and that I'd get to the bottom of whatever was bothering him. I got on the phone with my daughter-in-law and told her that Josh was safe with me, then asked her about the situation over there. She said the kid seemed upset and Caleb would not explain to her exactly what happened between us. And I told her everything from the beginning. How Caleb did not feel like his kids deserved my inheritance, and I played the tape for her, so she could hear it for herself, verbatim. Val said she asked him why he needed the money so badly, and he said it has nothing to do with the money, it's the principle. She told me they both have a sizable savings, pretty good jobs, and their house is paid off. They had more than enough to live comfortably for the rest of their lives, especially after the kids finished school. I asked to speak to him, but when Val tried to hand him the phone, he said, "I don't want to talk to that senile old man. At least I know how he feels about me. This is such a mess. I don't even know what to do at this point, and I want to be supportive. I want to find a solution. Not at the same time, my son is working my last nerve." Update number 2. Hey guys, so it's been over a week since my last update, and what a crazy few days it has been. I just got in from my morning hike when I get a call from my daughter-in-law asking if I'd be willing to meet her for lunch. She sounded really upset, so I asked her what was wrong, and she said, not over the phone. Later that day, I drove into town to meet her at a local cafe, and she was visibly shaken up. I ordered us some drinks, and she told me everything. My son has a gambling addiction, and he had not only spent all his savings but drained their joint bank account and took the money from Rose's college fund, and I was beyond shocked. She said all they had left was her personal savings in the house. Caleb had basically been living paycheck to paycheck. He would be the one to pay the bills and buy groceries like normal, but then take the rest of his money and just get rid of it at slot machines on the weekend. His inheritance from his mother was gone. He'd sold all the property and spent all the money, and she said that they had a talk the night before when he confessed everything, and he was lying to her. He said he had been spending his Saturdays networking with his boss and potential clients, and I was floored. His money was his money, but Rose's college fund? Really? She said his excuse was that Rose was probably going to get a free ride through college like her brothers, so she would not need the money anyways. But that's not even where this ends. Oh no. Not only had my son blown through all of his money, he was in debt to some very shady people, loan sharks. I didn't even know what to say at this point, and Caleb was putting his family in danger, and he called his kids irresponsible. Val said she did not feel safe around him anymore, but she was not sure what to do with herself and the kids, or even how to tell him she wanted him to leave. It was a tricky situation. I told her she did not have to kick him out. She and the kids could leave, and Josh was already staying with me. James could join him. I live closer to the university campus anyways, so hey, it works out. If her folks were willing to take her in, she could take Rose with her, since her high school was closer to them. It sucks to break the kids up, but they were welcome to my home on the weekends as always. She said she'd talk to her folks and get back to me, but she wanted me to be there for her when she confronted Caleb. I think it would be good for the kids too. They're old enough to understand, and they deserve to know the truth. I also told her I'd see what I could do about college fund for Rose, and I may have to rewrite my will again, but it's fine. I just want my grandkids safe and taken care of. Caleb, well, he's dead to me. He's not the son that I raised.
update number 3. We had our talk with Caleb yesterday. I wished I could say it went well, but let's start with some good news. We sorted out Rose's college fund, and some of Val's family members chipped in, so I did not have to make too many amends to my will. Yesterday, we all gathered at my son's house, so he'd meet us there when he got in from work. At that point, we had not told the kids anything yet, and they were growing impatient. When Caleb finally came home, Val called him into the kitchen where we were all waiting. He took one look in the room and said, "I'm not doing this," then tried to leave, but Val put her foot down and demanded he talk to his family. He begrudgingly sat down with us. Val took the reins of the meeting and told the kids that they were leaving. Caleb gets angry and asked her if she was really gonna blindside him like this, and she did not miss a beat. She explained to the kids that the twins would be staying with me, and she and Rose would be staying at her mother's for a while. And she told them their father would explain why. He said he didn't owe anybody an explanation. I told him he owed it to everyone, especially Rose, and he turned on his wife again and demanded to know if she's told me the family business. Val told him she did not know where else to look for support, and she certainly could not rely on him anymore. She told him he had 5 seconds to explain what happened to the kids or she would leave. Caleb finally caved and told them about his gambling addiction. The loans, the debt, how he squandered Rose's college fund, everything. Josh immediately started cursing him out. It took me solid 5 minutes to get him to calm down. I explained that Rose's college fund was taken care of and they need not worry. I also told them that the reason they could not stay with their father was because he was in bed with shady people, and we did not know what the lengths they would go to get their money back. Val told Caleb he needs to seek help and fast because she'd already talked to her lawyer about separation. I could not blame her. Caleb seemed more offended than hurt, and he said, "So, you all are just going to sit here and abandon me, huh? To pay the bills and mortgage all by myself?" Key thing is, he said bills and mortgage. That's right. He remortgaged the home. Val immediately says she wants a divorce and walks out, and Rose followed her, and I told the twins to pack as much as they could fit in their car and mine, and we could be getting away fast. When they were all gone, I told Caleb he needed to do some soul searching to decide what was really important to him, because he was obviously spiraling. I left him there and waited in the car while my grandkids packed. And that's where we are now. The twins went up to the house to get the rest of their stuff earlier today, and no one's heard from Caleb. He wasn't home when we went there. I blocked his number. I want nothing to do with them anymore.
Okay, so in my head, I was thinking there has to be something going on. Well, a little bit of beating around the bush, we find out about the addiction that OP's son has, and well, it cost him to lose absolutely everything. His wife, his kids, and even his father. Guys, maybe someone out there has been through something similar. Was there any way that you could overcome that, or did it ruin your life too? Let me know your thoughts about this story. It was very emotional, and it did have sad parts to it. I just want to know what you guys are thinking about it. Drop your comments in the comment section too. Maybe we can help somebody that's going through something similar. So let's talk about it. If you guys are new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. I read stories and animate them every single day. So stop on by tomorrow, see what stories we're doing, and don't forget to subscribe. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.